So I'm looking at this article and it says, see how these video game characters look as average women. All right, fine. You go to the very first sentence, and what they say is that, okay, we know that there are issues with representation of women's body in video games, just as there are issues in the way that men's bodies are portrayed. Okay, fine, but then they go on in the entire article to only focus on women.
Mm-hmm. See, this is it's a little prefix to the entire article so that they can kind of get the sexism out of the way, really. It's like, oh, well, there's issues with both sides, but we're just gonna, put that out there, and then they go into the actual article afterwards.
It's certainly a deflection, but what I still don't understand is why don't they elaborate on what issues there are exactly?
Yeah, I mean, and though to be fair, at the bottom of the article, it says that in some ways this project is as harmful as it is helpful, since it suggests that the body types of several characters whose bodies are actually quite proportionate aren't realistic. So yeah, they are acknowledging that, but at the same time, the rest of the article is still like, oh yeah, this mission is a noble one in concept. Okay. Yeah,
but these body types are realistic. They have a picture of
Exactly.
They have a picture of Christy Montero from Tekken 5. She's from Brazil, where women can actually look like the before picture. After, not the after pudgy Photoshop picture. A lot of them look like the before because they take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. It blows my fucking mind. What they're trying to do is they're trying to defeat body shaming by body shaming.
Yeah.
That's what it all boils down to. It's like, well, the pictures of the gal from Grand Theft Auto 5 is unrealistic. It's like, it's perfectly realistic. It's just not the most common body type. And then when you go look at the title of the fucking thing, see how these female video game characters look as, quote, average, in quote, women. Average is a fucking relative term to your location. Because in America, yes, average people on majority are overweight.
Yeah. But it's like you said, it's completely subjective as to what average is in your location. I mean,
absolutely.
There's, for instance, I live in Minneapolis, and that's a very bike-friendly city. When I walk down the street, the average body type is actually quite fit. I very rarely see people who are heavier or overweight because a lot of people here in this particular city are quite active. Mm-hmm. So trying to sell this idea to me that, hey, no, an average woman looks like this instead of this, it's like, it depends on where you're looking.
Well, Katie, you're just wrong. Tumblr told me so.
Not to mention is if we are to, as LaughingMan has said, in America, that this is unfortunately the most common body type you'll see, so they could use the defense of saying, well, it's like, well, if we line up all the people and if we see how much each one weighs, then this is going to be the average. But the problem is when they use the word average, they use it in a way as almost as to say, this is how normal women look like. Mm-hmm. They don't look like these Barbie dolls. No, that's just unrealistic. Despite the fact that the blonde girl from GTA 5, yeah, that image is actually based on a real life model who looks exactly like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But despite that, of course she was shamed and told that she's unrealistic and that she was a brainwashed victim of the patriarchy.
Well, they throw around
forcefully starving herself.
They throw around the word unrealistic because they're trying to do like an ad populus fallacy, where it's like, well, most people look like the one on the right, and the other one.
That's because most people are lazy.
Yes. Whereas they say that the other one is unrealistic. It's like bullshit. It's very realistic. It's very attainable. It's not the majority. People who take care of themselves and try to remain active, like Katie suggested, can look like the one on the left. Not everybody's going to look like that. Not the majority of people are going to look like that, though, but it's not impossible. Mm-hmm. Now, see, if they were to show a picture of Bayonetta with the fucking giraffe neck and the gigantic fucking long legs, mm-hmm. the spider legs, I mean, yes, that is unrealistic because I've never seen that fucking body type in any human being or any porn I've ever watched.
Well, yes, but see, that is the thing. That's I have 2 points. The first one is that these people, they need to make a distinction between characters that are designed to look like a more realistic human being or characters that are specifically stylized so that from an artistic standpoint, the silhouette or the way that the character moves, for instance, that they are designed and proportioned a specific way to add something to the visual look of the character.
Yes.
For example, one of the shows that I mean, it's not a video game, but a show that I really like is called Steven Universe, and all of the main characters in that show have different body types, and this is something that, as an animator, it's always very important to keep in mind. We're always told to watch your silhouettes, where it's like, okay, if you take the character that you have, completely black them out, and then put them up, you know, on a white background, all the shapes should be different, you know, so...
Which adds a lot of visual interest.
Yeah, so people need to, first of all, the people that are doing these so-called, you know, like fixing these women with Photoshop, these characters, like maybe they're trying to...
Using the stretch tool.
Well, yeah, but like maybe they're trying to quote-unquote fix a character that specifically looks that way because, hey, that's the fucking character design. But my second point is that one of these images that they use, that they quote-unquote fixed, is Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is a Japanese game. It comes from, you know, that's its origin, Japan. What is the average body type in Japan? You look at Japanese people, a lot of them are very skinny, a lot of them are shorter. That's just...
Oh, now you're being racist, and now you're thin shaming.
Well, actually...
Twitter's going to have a field day with you.
Well, unfortunately, Twitter is up its own ass because they're the ones doing this. Because...
Yes.
You know, Tifa, from a Final Fantasy game, from Japan, her average body type... Hey, guess what? She's skinnier. She's, you know, I don't know how tall she is, but I mean, at least body type, she's kind of skinnier. That, most of the time, is the average in Japan. That's just the body types that they tend to have over there. I mean, I watch documentaries about Japan or something, and you don't often see people who are heavy. It can happen, but that's not the average. So you need to also, these people are not keeping in mind the average of whatever particular country or origin the game comes from. They're just saying, well, it's not the average in America, so therefore we need to change it. It's like, I'm sorry, but America isn't the center of the world.
But Katie, see, I am, and I feel like you're wrong. And I'm going to go on Tumblr, and I'm going to shame you for shaming me and my body type for trying to conform to your worldview of how people should look.
Well, the funny thing is, you know, as LaughingMan is currently taking the piss out of these Tumblrites, one of the things they'll throw at you is this term called cultural appropriation, right? And the interesting thing about this is, well, first of all, the article we mentioned in the beginning of this discussion, it was posted on CinemaBlend recently, but originally I saw it on Polygon, the very same website that a couple of months beforehand tried to shame Witcher 3 for not having any people of color, despite the fact that this is a game that comes from a Polish studio that is based on a series of novels by a Polish author based on Polish
mythology.
Yes, and unless, you know, last time I checked, people from that area, just, you know, Slavonic people in general, they're white.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that always makes me laugh, is that these people, they always seem to kind of have their minds stuck in America, and they don't ever think of other countries outside of America. They're just so close-minded. They do not.
They bitch about cultural appropriation, and here they're doing the same fucking thing.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean,
your Japanese games have to appeal to my American values.
Yep.
Your Japanese games or your Polish games have to appeal to my American values.
And the most important part is that the two most upvoted comments on that article came from a black gentleman and an Asian gentleman, respectively, and both of them made the exact same point. I do not need to have a token representation of my race in a fantasy game that is set in a virtual world.
Yeah, exactly. A Northern European medieval setting. It's just like, I don't need to have white characters in my medieval Asian games.
Or more importantly, on Kotaku, for example, recently they were all ranting and raving in a positive sense, because I think there was some game that was being made in South Africa or something that is set in Africa, kind of using, you know, their cultural themes and art and whatnot. Well, you know how African art looks like. And in that game, not a single white person was to be found, and Kotaku was jacking itself off dry because oh my god, this is what #progress looks like.
I'm coming, dirt. Just like the semen, their viewership is evaporating.
Oh my god. Yeah, but that's exactly the thing, is that
How dare you set a game in Africa and not have any Hispanic or Asian people in it? You culturally biased motherfuckers. You racists.
Yeah, I mean, let's break this down. So a game is set in a specific country, and it features people that look like they're from that specific country. Awesome! I think that should be great in any instance. When it's a game set in Africa, people are happy. When it's a game, say, set in Italy or just pretty much, I mean, a lot of the countries in Europe are just a lot of the people there are, you know, they're white. I'm sorry, that's just, I mean, think about it. Like Max said, Poland, Russia, you know, Italy, Germany, all these places, surprise, surprise.
Predominantly.
Yes, they're predominantly white. So if you have a game that's set in one of those places or is taking a lot of themes or inspiration from one of those places, if a lot of
especially if they take place in medieval
yes.
settings where there wasn't as much, you know, cultural interaction back in those days.
Well, that, or, you know what would be even worse, if people would flip shit even more about. Now, I need to brush up on my history some. This is just, I'm just going to pull this out of my ass, but I'm pretty damn sure that there were a lot of places overseas that the only way that you would see a black person would be if they were a slave in that particular time period.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so if these people are complaining about, oh, my medieval game doesn't have a black person, it's like, well, if we did put black people in, and it was culturally, historically accurate, they would be slaves, and then people would flip even more shit.
But see, Max, you and Katie, I feel like you guys just aren't right. I feel like I'm right and you guys are wrong, and you're being racist now because you're quoting history.
Yeah.
Well, see, if you feel unsafe, there is a special hug box you can retreat to. It's called
college.
Oh, well, that's a topic for another time.
But to get kind of back more on the fat shaming and the fit shaming that's going on here.
Yeah.
If you guys look at the article, it says bulimia.com, a website dedicated to sharing the message about eating disorders, featured a series of photoshopped images via the Daily Dot of several different female video game characters altered to better resemble the average female body, complete with realistic proportions and makeovers. Okay, first of all, if you're fit, like if you're like a female MMA fighter who can look like a Mortal Kombat character, from whom like Mortal Kombat X directly took some inspirations from. I can't remember exact fighter, but it's not an eating disorder. It's an activity. It's a fitness issue.
It's a choice.
That's
what it is.
Exactly. Now, if you're bulimic, that's sad because it is a disorder.
Yes.
But just because you take care of yourself, if you exercise, you get your cardio in, you do a little bit of physical activity, and you look good, you should not be shamed for that. Mm-hmm. It fucking blows my mind. And again, just because the average American is overweight doesn't mean that a fit female figure or male figure, which they're completely omitting from this article, is not an impossibility.
Of course it isn't. Nor should it be. This reminds me of I was listening to a stream between this gentleman I'd found recently, TLDR, or as he calls himself, Tildeer.
Tildeer, I like him.
He was having a stream with a rather prominent MGTOW producer by the name of Stardusk, and one thing the both of them mentioned over the course of the discussion is that these days it seems like there's this, when it comes to social justice and fit shaming and cultural and all this horseshit basically, there is currently a race to the bottom. The lowest common denominator is being extolled to a position of an almost like a divine ideal. I'm not even saying that you should be forced to work out. You know what? It's a choice. If you don't want to look fit, whatever you can do. I'm a libertarian. I don't give a shit what you do with your life. But the problem is right now there seems
just keep your life away from everybody else. Twitter and Tumblr.
Exactly, but that's the thing. I'm not imposing my values on you, so why the fuck is there's this current, ongoing, unrelenting propaganda campaign telling women, as well as men, because let's not forget about this dad bod horseshit that's going on, where both young men and women are told, hey, you shouldn't strive towards anything, you should eat just as much food as you want. It just doesn't matter. If someone doesn't accept you, oh, they're just myopic, you know?
You're special. You're a snowflake. You're this precious little thing that should be just completely happy with where they're at. It's and I really hate to add Nietzsche to the conversation, but it's what's called a slave mentality.
Oh, yeah.
And or a slave moral, where instead of trying to build yourself up, which they consider the master moral, which is more like classic Greek, which is, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna work hard to become the best painter. I'm gonna work hard to become the best best physical condition I can be. The slave mentality, on the other hand, tries to tear people down. And instead of raising themselves up, they try to tear everybody else down to create some type of equality. It's like if you paint a picture and somebody comes up and says, you shouldn't be so proud about what you did because, there's people out there who can't draw. It's like, well, fuck them.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it, because these people, maybe they feel bad about the way that they look, and okay, fine. Maybe you have some kind of genetic disorder or something, so it's really hard for you to lose weight, so you're just constantly going to be...
I come from a fat family, and trying to retain my weight is a fucking day-to-day challenge.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe you really want to lose weight, but it's just really hard for you, but okay, that's fine, but you shouldn't go out of your way to shame people who can lose weight or can be fit if that's your choice. But on the other hand, people also shouldn't, and I don't think that any of us have said otherwise, but people shouldn't, constantly be telling them, hey, you have to lose weight, hey, you're disgusting or whatever, because, if they are comfortable with themselves at that weight, then that's their choice, that's their life.
It's just another form of bigotry. It's just another type of body shaming. People have been fat shamed in the past. Hopefully, we're kind of getting over that. If you want to, eat cookies and cakes, that's your own damn business. But you shouldn't be turning around trying to fit shame people, saying, how dare you work hard, or how dare you be naturally skinny, or how dare you be athletic. It blows my fucking mind.
Yeah. See, they're going about it the wrong way. They're trying to make themselves feel better because they're not happy with themselves. There's two ways they can do this. They can work to accept themselves in their body and start to feel comfortable in their body if they either don't want to change it or it's hard for them to change it.
Right.
Or they can just look at other people who are the way that they want to be.
Wish they were.
Yeah, and then be angry at them and lash out. I think that people should be encouraged to accept themselves. If they're heavier and they want to stay heavy, then fine, that's your choice. And you should, I don't know, people, they're just not, they're going about it the wrong way. They need to, like you said, they need to build themselves up and they need to become comfortable with themselves.
Absolutely. They need to take more of a stoic look at things, right, Katie?
Yeah. They're so easy to read. These people who lash out in this way, it's obvious where it's coming from and why they're doing
Self-loathing.
it. Exactly. It's just so obvious and kind of sad to see that they don't realize where the problem lies.
It's because they don't want to change for the world. They want the world to change for them.
Yeah.
It's the most narcissistic, most self-entitled bunch of bullshit you could possibly do. To quote Rust Cole from fucking True Detective, it's such a great sense of entitlement, isn't it? Surely this is all for me. Me. I'm so fucking important. I'm really so fucking important, right? Fuck you.
Yeah. I mean, they, like you said, now if they were advocating for the world to just, accept them and leave them alone and not, don't shame fat people.
Which is a libertarian creed, is just, do what you want to do, just leave me alone.
Exactly. I am definitely for the opinion that if somebody's heavier, then you shouldn't shame them, because that's not your fucking life, and you shouldn't have anything to say about how another person's body looks. So don't get into that. But they're not that's not the message they're trying to send. They're trying to send, no, we are absolutely wonderful and beautiful and perfect, and everybody should love us. I'm not saying you need to love them. I'm saying you don't need to outright shame them.
You don't, but the last part is the most important. But in their mind, it's not even about acceptance. Well, it is kind of about acceptance, but it goes
further than acceptance.
It goes further, because if they just demanded tolerance, then yeah, sure, it's your choice, your body, fine. But the last part is the most important part. Because, for example, you have a chick who's overweight, but she still wants Brad Pitt to notice her. That's delusion. I'm sorry. Because if you are to accept that people have individual choices, and people can have subjective, people are attracted to what they're attracted to.
Yeah.
Then you should accept that, maybe Brad Pitt has certain different standards, and maybe he just doesn't find you attractive.
Exactly.
And if Brad Pitt doesn't love me for me being who I am, then I need to lash out against Brad Pitt.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, is that they're not looking...
More entitlement, more special little snowflake mentality.
Yeah, I mean, they're not looking, obviously, they never look at this kind of stuff scientifically, because, there are studies shown that certain people are attracted to certain body types or certain features on, the opposite gender, same gender, whatever your sexuality is, for certain actual genetic reasons. It's like, maybe you're in, like, maybe ladies into guys with, like, curly hair or something, and that's because her genetics, like, there's something about that, like, her genetics need to be balanced if they have kids. It's like, there's all this scientific stuff, and you're right, people demanding that, everybody see fat people as beautiful and wonderful and attractive is never going to work, because, I'm sorry, people, like Max said, people find different things attractive.
But here's the thing: is it's more Darwinian than anything else. Because back in like ancient times, where people had to fight day to day just to survive, to keep fed, fat people were highly revered. Mm-hmm. Because if you were in the Nordic areas, and we'll go back to being white since that's all we can talk about. If you were to go to the Viking era, I mean, they talk about the Valkyries, how they were very heavy-set women, beautiful heavy-set women who come down and take you off the battlefield after you've died gloriously in battle and take you to Valhalla. The reason why fat women back then were extremely revered is because...
Scarcity of resources.
Yeah, scarcity of resources. They're more likely to keep your children alive because they apparently could find food. They apparently could, have more than enough to survive on. And that was extremely attractive. I mean, now it's kind of shifted over, so everybody kind of wants fit and active, because I imagine that somewhere deep down in us, it's more advantageous to be fit and active because you might live longer.
Well, not to mention that, but the person who's actually in shape, what that tells you just from a visual standpoint, just from looking at him or her, what you see is that this person has discipline, this person has rigor, this person has dedication, this person has certain ambitions that they strive towards. However,
but again, and then there's also the devotion of time too, because I have time to go out and work out.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I do. I have 2 hours every day I could spare, and every other day I do that. A lot of people who are working, if they have to work 2 jobs, they're not gonna be able to do that unless, yeah. So it comes down to there's almost a certain level of wealth, and especially when you look at Hollywood and professional athletes, and we'll get to this in a second here, they keep themselves very fit because that their job requires it. Whether you're an athlete or you're supposed to look good on the screen, these people are also wealthy, so there's this tie-in between wealth and being healthy. So.
Yeah, I would say that that's sort of a tangent, because in a way, you don't need wealth to be healthy, because, surprise, surprise, you can go run laps around.
Walks are free.
Yeah, you can go run laps around the park, and you go.
I'm not saying this stuff is concrete. I'm saying that this is.
Well, no,
the
but
myth.
I'm just saying
this is.
that.
If I were to look out and I were to ask people, especially a fat family who's poor, or not necessarily as a correlation causation thing, but I would ask this. I was like, okay, how come Americans are so overweight? Well, number one, we're plentiful, and number two is there's the belief that most fast food and crap food is cheap. Because again, a can of Coke versus a can of V8.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to video games, the characters that they're ripping on in the CinemaBlend article. One of them, again, I'm going back to Christy Montero because she's fucking hot. But let's take a look at some of the people from the list. Final Fantasy VII's Tifa Lockhart, a couple characters like Jade from Mortal Kombat and Christy Montero from Tekken 5. They always do this body shaming thing for characters in games who are active. I mean, think about it. If you're gonna be a Nathan Drake or a Lara Croft, and you're gonna be scaling mountains, and you're gonna be fighting bears, and you're gonna be investigating stuff, and you're gonna be doing all these cool adventure things, much like Indiana Jones and whatnot, more than likely you're gonna be fit.
Yep.
Just because you're doing this level of activity.
Of course.
If you're a professional fighter, and we see this in fucking real life with boxing, MMA, whatever else, if you're a fighter, you are in excellent shape.
You have to.
And again. Yes,
Yeah.
you have to be, otherwise you'll get your ass handed to you. This is why boxers look like they do. This is why MMA people, male and female, look closer to like Tekken characters. I'm not saying that there's not some creative exaggerations like in the Street Fighter games and how overly masculine, I'm getting to this now, how overly masculine some of the Street Fighter characters are just by proportion.
Yep.
Which they omit from this entire article because they're only talking about females and making them fat to be beautiful. But it's gotten to this level of absolute ridiculousness that I'm surprised that no one's screaming and complaining about body shaming, fit shaming in sports games. Because how dare that NFL player not be overweight? I mean, how come he is, fit? How come this basketball player is fit? How come this boxer looks fit? And how come no one's photoshopping fatter virtual boxers? I mean,
yeah. Now
it makes no fucking sense. It's this level of fucking stupidity and goddamn entitlement that people are getting to, where it just completely baffles reason.
Yeah. Now to kind of, put myself in their shoes and look at it from a different perspective. I do very much agree that in certain games, obviously not sports games, but in certain games, it would be beneficial from just, the silhouettes that I talked of earlier, to have characters of different body types. Just visually, it would be more interesting if, let's use the Persona series, for example, Persona 3, all of your main characters you can play as are pretty,
diverse,
fit, average bodies. Exactly. But personally, I would have thought that character lineup would maybe be a little more interesting if you had, different body types.
If characters were diverse, but that takes place in a fucking high school. This is the thing is.
Yeah. See, it depends.
It depends on the setting, because again, if you're gonna have an MMA game and you have different body types, yeah, sure, it'll make you feel good though, but it defies reality.
Sense. Yeah. Now, I think that, in the future, moving down the line, I would definitely encourage, certain types of video games, such as stuff like RPG, like Persona series or something like that, to have different body types, if only for the fact that visually and artistically, it's going to make your character line up, stand out more from each other, make them all more individuals. But also, on the same token, yes, especially in America, if it's an American-made game, yeah, a lot of our population is heavier and overweight, so if it's a game set in America, it would make sense to have a decent amount of characters who are maybe more heavy set. That makes sense to me.
And video games have done this in the past. Again, going back to
they have.
Going back to Final Fantasy VII, Barrett was this gigantic Mr. T, ridiculously disproportioned muscular male character, and yes, there are instances of disproportion, and I'm not thinking it was Tifa necessarily. And there's also, Red 13 and Cat Sith and some other ones that are just there for visual interest. And, of course, Cloud was very, very thin. And you go to, like, something like Final Fantasy VIII where all of them are thin. Again, your point on visual interest rings true. But this is something that, has been in games before. But what I feel like they're doing in this CinemaBlend thing is they're cherry picking.
Well, no, yeah. And I do want to reiterate that I am not saying that this has never been done before, but at the same time, I would like to see it be done more. Again, using Steven Universe as an example, every single character has a unique silhouette. Mm-hmm. And I would love to see more of that because it's great artistically, and honestly, it is more inclusive. I have a lot of more heavyset friends, and it would be cool to see, more people like them. Now, am I going to completely, flip shit if every game I play doesn't have, a heavyset character or, a gay or lesbian characters? I have a lot of friends that are gay and lesbian. No, I'm not. I'm going to enjoy it as a game, and I'm not going to shame it for not having those things. But at the same time, I will speak up and say, hey, it would be cool if there were more, characters of different sexualities or body types and stuff. I would like to see that.
And just saying it would be cool to see something is fine. That's
exactly.
Great. I mean, if you vote with your dollars saying, hey, it's really cool that in Mass Effect and most modern US RPGs, you can create your own character and whatever body type and shape and size and color and whatever else you want to do. That's cool. But when you start going around shaming, and this is what this is doing. This is what CineMablend's doing. Is they're body shaming.
Yeah.
To be anti-body shaming.
Yeah.
Here's also another problem. They talk about realism, how they want to see realism in a video game and realistic depiction of women, and then they will also throw in men just as a deflection. But we know what the real problem here is. But here's the problem. Like Katie mentioned, that she has a couple of more rotund female friends. Here's the question. Now, am I for including more people of different shapes and sizes in video games? Absolutely. But, and I'm asking Katie here directly, can you see these friends of yours in the role of, say, Samus Aran or Lara Croft?
Or they're climbing mountains, jumping, fighting.
Nope. Yeah, no, exactly. Nope, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually goes back to my point, but realism.
Mintu. I'm just gonna toss out Mintu.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying that I can see if what's his name, like Jonah Hill, played the role of
Jonah Hill is Dante from Devil May Cry.
Yes, or the example I was going to say, I don't see Jonah Hill playing John McClane in a Die Hard movie, because that would just be unrealistic. He would get stuck in the duct.
In the duct.
Yeah, exactly, in the duct.
When he has to reach back and grab that gun to shoot Hans, he can't reach all the way behind his back.
Yes, he needs to use like a...
Hold on a second, Hans, I almost got it. Oh, shit.
Yes,
can't reach.
He needs to use like one of those selfie sticks, or the...
Selfie stick!
But that's the thing, because, you talked about character creation tools, for example, right? And I'm all for creating all sorts of different type of characters, but what I would like to see is, especially if these people demand realism, I would argue that to date, the most realistic game when it comes to body size and, physical abilities and whatnot is possibly GTA San Andreas, because in that game, you could alter the physical shape of your protagonist, CJ, where you start out as a more or less able-bodied male, he's kind of on the skinny side, but he's still more or less healthy, but throughout the course of the game, you can change your body shape, you can hit the gym, and you can get shredded. And here's the thing, you don't get shredded in one day, because like in real world, there's a limit to how much you can lift, so you actually have to go to the gym, then take a break, then come back the next day. And if you get shredded, you have better stamina, you can run faster, you can swim better, you can jump higher, etc. Or conversely, you can avoid the gym, you can eat fast food, and you can become, there's really no way to sugarcoat this, you can become a fat tub of shit, and if that happens, you lose health more rapidly. You're not able to run. I'm not sure if you can run at all, and if you can only run for short periods of time. You can barely jump, you get exhausted, it takes a toll on your health. So if we are to argue for realistic representation of games, like that's the way to go, because otherwise you have something like, as a contrast, the Saints Row series, where you can completely modify the way your character looks. And I remember like Jim Sterling creating pretty much a virtual copy of himself, but the problem is, despite the fact that he was on the heavier side, he was still able to do anything and everything that the fit guy was able to do, and it's like, now wait a second here.
But see, Max, realism, I want realism unless it doesn't make me feel good. It comes down to this absurd notion that you need, that you're privileged somehow to be happy.
Yeah.
To have the world revolve around you. It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Kids, the world doesn't give a shit about you until you do something to prove your worth.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then even then, most of the world isn't even gonna know your fucking name. I mean, this is it's a quote from the Meditations, where it's like, how small a nook of the earth you live in, and how few people even know your name, something along the lines of that. So I mean, these people, it seems like they, anybody and everybody who ever interacts with them, they want to be treated like a god.
But Katie, we have YouTube, and we have Twitter, and we have Tumblr, and people know us. We can get known. We can get subscribers. We can get people to listen to us while we're on our soapboxes.
Yeah, no.
CCS is snowflakes.
Yeah, no.
Well,
I mean,
because people listen to us because we have something of, I hope so, value to say. It's not because. Then again, I can imagine some Tina Tamborina on YouTube spreading all sorts of lies and falsehoods and feel-good messages and getting more popular than us, because people would rather be delusional than exist in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And because of those couple of fat jokes that we crack, Max. And again, I'm from a fat family. It's not fun, but I can still have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, and again, I want to stress the fact that if the message was simply, accept us as a part of society and don't shame us for whatever body type we have, totally 100% behind that.
Sure.
And in fact, if I see my heavy friends, in real life, if somebody were to, point and laugh at us or tease her while we were walking, the fucker's probably gonna lose some teeth. Like, I take that shit down. But, if you're advocating for, just people to fucking worship you, and for, this whole thing where it's like, fat people are actually super healthy, and, they should be beautiful to everyone.
They're godlike.
Exactly. See, that goes back to the point we made earlier where, no, I'm sorry, not every person is going to be attracted to people who are heavier. So you can't have that. They're wanting something that they cannot possibly have.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to use, again, body shaming so that their body type becomes the norm, so they won't get body shamed.
Yeah, instead of just, educating people and saying, hey, no, actually, a lot of times people don't get fat because they're, lazy. It's because of how unhealthy the food is in America. Yeah, if you were spreading education,
yes.
Fuck yeah. But no, they're not.
For the price of a Big Mac, you can get a whole fucking chicken.
Yeah, or, a bunch of vegetables, make a stir fry. Again, and then that's multiple meals. But no, that isn't the message that they're sending. And it's just like, that message would be so much more effective if their goal is to have all different body types accepted and not shamed in the world, and they were approaching it from an educational standpoint. Like, oh my God, I would be on that. But they're just not.
Additionally, now that you've brought up the topic of messages, I think an important question to ask is, do video games even need to have some sort of political or sociological or whatever message inside of them?
No. Art doesn't need to be politically correct.
Nor does it have to be politically incorrect. My point is, if you want to have a message inside your game, if you want to raise awareness or whatever, by all means. But I don't like the fact that video games, as well as other forms of media like movies and music, are being used, or they're being turned into a tool of indoctrination.
Yeah.
Because, as we said, there are certain video games that they don't have realistic body proportions and whatnot, but that's because they have a unique artistic style to them. Like, let's not forget about all the ruckus that was raised after the announcement of Dragon's Crown, and how Dragon's Crown it's unrealistic and the women are objectified. Yeah, have you seen the design of the male characters? No one looks like a real human being in the fucking video game.
Fucking 24-inch waist and like a goddamn 50-inch chest.
Yeah,
absolutely. But they attack the.
It's like a goddamn top.
Yeah, but all these liberal gaming journalists, they constantly attack video games. Some of them don't even claim or pretend to have realistic body proportions. Like, no, this is the design of our game. What the fuck are you talking about?
It's art style.
Exactly.
It's like complaining about that Tim Burton Vincent animation not being proportionally correct.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, the characters have big heads. Fuck you.
Again, it goes back to it's character design.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I ever see anybody trying to attack some game where it's like the characters specifically stylized and they're, cartoony or unrealistic for a reason, that person's just literally fucking retarded. I'm sorry. It's like, no, that's called fucking character design, you idiot.
How dare Hey Arnold have characters with heads shaped like footballs?
Yeah, I mean...
because we need to spread awareness for football-shaped head people.
Or more to the point, how dare Sonic not look like a real hedgehog?
How come Mario's fat?
Well, that's because he's Italian. But
yeah, but I don't know. I mean, personally, I think I touched on everything I was thinking about saying. What about you guys? Anything to wrap this up with?
I just gotta keep on pushing the fact that they're using body shaming to prevent themselves from getting body shamed. That's what's coming down to. It's like, no, you have to conform to what I consider as normal. So I'm gonna not do any effort on myself. I'm gonna take some pictures. I'm gonna Photoshop them. I'm gonna spit them back out there and say this should be right.
Yeah, especially, I mean, and the thing that just completely baffles me is it's like, if you look at the examples that they used of like, oh, I fixed it, she was unrealistic before, now she's realistic. It's like both of them look like a real woman. Mm-hmm. They honestly did. And saying that, well, no, she didn't look like a real woman, before, but now she does. That's really, it is. It's just body shame. It's really rude.
Well, you gotta read the verbiage they use. The one that's fit is called unrealistic, and the one that's pudgier is called normal.
Yeah, average, yeah.
So it gives you this belief right off the bat just by the writing, saying that one is unobtainable.
Yep.
So you need to settle for the other.
Yep, exactly.
And that's bullshit on both counts.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird for me, this topic, because, like I said, I do have heavyset friends that I do, stand up for their, people to accept them, because it's stupid to shame somebody just for the way that they look. But then when I see...
And that's what we're driving at, though. That's exactly what we're driving at. It's stupid to body shame anybody. And here, these people who are, I'm guessing, are being body shamed, are turning around body shaming something that's not unobtainable.
Exactly.
They're saying this is unrealistic. This is wrong.
Yeah,
and
see, that's why...
This character is fit, so fuck them. They should be shamed.
Yep.
And it's like, well, no. That's not how it doesn't make any sense. It's hypocrisy, period.
Yeah, that's why I can't get behind stuff like the fat acceptance movement, because that's the kind of message that most of it sends. And it's rude to, because you're right, it's just complete hypocrisy, so.
Well, there's fat tolerance. I mean, tolerance I think is okay, but acceptance, yes. I can look at like someone who's, there's a fucking fair going on about 5 fucking miles away from my house. And it's one of those corn pole fairs, we got the cattle show, and we got the pig show, and we got Charlotte's Web over in the corner, and yuck. And you walk down there, and there's people who weigh like 400 pounds, and they got like a Coke in one hand and a corn dog in the other, and a burrito hanging out of their mouth like a fucking cigarette. And it's like, how can you do that to yourself?
Well, it's because that's their choice.
Yeah, it's their choice though, but I don't necessarily have to like it. I'm not going to go up and call them anything. I'm not going to say anything, but I don't need to condone it. No,
exactly. And like, if you keep that to yourself, if in your head you think that person looks unhealthy, fine. You're able to.
I'm not going to walk up and slap the burrito out of their mouth. I'm just going to, look at it and go, how I could personally never do that to myself. So I'm just going to, just walk by, just don't even form an opinion, just keep on going. But what we're seeing on Tumblr is these people, the same people I described, getting up on a soapbox in the middle of that fair and pointing at people who are fit and saying, you should be ashamed.
Yeah.
So, I guess in conclusion, what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna quote the great late comedic duo, Otto and George, and just say, do a setup, you fat fuck!